Live from the Pines, episode 78, coming at you live tonight. We welcome Huntsville High School Athletic Director and Head Football Coach, Coach Todd Moebes. How you doing tonight, Coach Moebes?
Good, Jalen, man. Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, we've been trying to get this set up for a while. I think when you got the job at Huntsville, we had reached out. You were busy getting everything going over there, and, it just didn't work out. But we're finally getting to make this happen a week before kickoff.
Yeah, glad we did.
And also the week we get to scrimmage you guys here in Lufkin.
Yeah, how about that? We'll be coming up there Friday, so make sure and turn the AC on if you would.
Oh yeah, I don't know if we can help with that. I got my truck today after lunch. It's 104 degrees here, so it's going to be hot. And I think we got a little rain in the forecast, so it's going to be hot and humid.
Yeah, I think it may have been 105 here, so who knows?
Yeah. Well, Coach Moebes, tell us a little bit about yourself and where you got started at, where you found your passion for coaching, and your playing days and all those good things.
Yeah, I mean, I was born and raised in Katy, Texas, proud Katy Tiger alumni. And, really my passion and desire to coach really started at a young age of being influenced by, the great staff that we had at Katy. I tell people all the time that I feel like I'm a product of public education and, Texas high school football and the community-driven piece of that, and growing up in Katy, Texas. And so I got to be a part of that tradition, left there and came to Huntsville and played at Sam Houston State. Was fortunate enough to go back to Katy High School, after I graduated. Spent 5 years there, then spent 11 years at Abilene Cooper, 4 as a defensive coordinator and 7 as a head coach, and then spent the last 6 years at Lockhart before getting here. Coaching is something that I always wanted to do. Told everybody that, I've never really had a plan B. So,
I did not know you played at Katy, had a chance to go back and coach at Katy. What's it like coming from such a rich tradition of Katy High School?
It's incredible. I mean, I think that, the way that I was fortunate enough to live in that community, my parents, I've told everybody, gave me the greatest gift that they could possibly give me. And they were season ticket holders back in the early 80s, when Katy was having some down years. And just to be a part of that as a youngster. I was that guy, that kid in the stands that wanted to be those players on the field. And, being able to grow up in that program, in that community, certainly, once, Katy started getting to the late 80s and early 90s, started having a whole lot of success, and then being a part of that as a player, in the early 90s was just incredible. I've got a nephew there that is going to be a junior, and, the being able to see, how he values the tradition and the importance of Katy football, is just a mirror of, how I was when I was growing up. So, it was awesome.
Well, a lot of people can't say that they've accomplished some of the things Katy High School's accomplished, especially in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, the 90s, and all those great days. And one thing I know for sure, I'm sure you love to run the ball.
Yes. Yeah. No, we love to run football. So
you're from Katy, you love to run football.
Yes, sir. No, I think our offenses, I've been, the head coach for the last 14 years, certainly don't reflect the Katy offense that you see. No, absolutely. Playing good, physical, hard-nosed football and, being able to, control the line of scrimmage and manage the game is certainly, is a bread and butter that I grew up in, and certainly something I still believe.
So, just from you being around the program, having a chance to play there and coach there, is it a big emphasis on the skill guys, tight ends and stuff? No rock, no block, no rock.
That may get echoed once or twice in the off season or something, but we always tell our receivers they're going to be the best blocking receivers in the state of Texas.
You got no choice
to try to give them an edge. But, at the same time, each program that I've been a part of has been different. And, you got to be versatile enough to be able to maximize the strength of your football team, especially offensively. So, it's our job as coaches to be able to recognize what our strengths are and play to those strengths, and where our areas of improvement need to be made, and focus on those and try to make them strengths through the development of the program and the kids that we got.
That's great. So what made you find your way out west?
Let's see here. We've had some family that lives in Abilene. Coaching is just a big network. At the end of the 2006 season, I remember we had just lost in the quarterfinals and went back to, we're driving our buses back to the bus barn, and we were very disappointed in the outcome of that game. And another coach from staff came over and asked me if I was going to take the job in Abilene. I was like, well, what are you talking about? And we had both had a mutual friend that was on staff at Abilene Cooper. And so Mike Spradlin was the head coach at that time, and they were looking for a defensive coordinator, and just had an opportunity to go up there and interview, and it was a great fit. And certainly, what I learned from Coach Spradlin, and, at that point in time, he gave a 28-year-old DC an opportunity to go play in the little Southwest Conference that was still intact, back in 2007, and allowed me to learn a lot about, obviously being able to coordinate, run a room, and learn a lot about the administrative side of things.
That's a big part of it. I think a lot of people forget, especially being a head coach like you are, and you've been for the last 14 years, you're athletic director first. And being an athletic director means you are basically an administrator. And it's
Sure.
It's a lot that goes into it. I know that I was talking to Coach Absick earlier at Lufton, and he's like, I had, meeting after meeting after meeting. You're going through all these meetings. You're still trying to coach football games. You're still trying to get ready to play a scrimmage on Friday. You kick off the season next Friday. You have all these things going on, so you're just not a football coach. And I think that's a good thing for a lot of young football coaches to know is, you might be a receiver coach, running back coach now, but if you want to be a head coach, you need to learn the admin side of it.
Sure. And I've always I challenged myself whenever I was in as an assistant and as a coordinator, and I certainly challenged the staffs that I've been a part of. I mean, you've got to think ahead, if you're an assistant, you need to be thinking like a coordinator. That's going to help the coordinator. And when you're a coordinator, you need to think like a head coach so that you can be a great number two to be able to assist and help them. And, I always had never had a plan B, wanted to be a Texas high school football coach. Knew when I got in it in the early years that I wanted to be a coordinator and wanted to be a head coach. And so I was very blessed to surround myself with, guys that I believe are kind of on my Mount Rushmore of coaching in Texas high school football. And
who is your Mount Rushmore of Texas high school football coaches?
Well, I think it's pretty easy. We can go ahead and throw Mike Johnston and Gary Joseph on those pretty quickly, but certainly, like I said, Mike Spradlin gave me an opportunity as a 28-year-old kid to go and run his defense at Abilene Cooper. And I think, certainly supported me whenever he left and went to Temple High School. And I had the, support to be promoted as a 32-year-old at Abilene Cooper as the athletic coordinator and head football coach there. So, those guys are certainly on there. Joey McGuire is a very dear friend of mine. And he's certainly on there. We competed against each other in 2013 in the third round of the playoffs, and Cedar Hill got us that year, and then they ended up beating Katy to win the state championship.
They were really good that year.
They were really good that year, and they beat us by 7, and so we were really good that year too. It was a great football game, and really just getting to know him kind of in the negotiations of where we were going to play. We played a great football game, and we really kind of stayed close, and he's certainly been a mentor of mine throughout the years.
That's great. So you decide to make the big move, and you move all the way back to East Texas. You're not, unfamiliar with the area. You went to Tim Houston State. It's right down the road from Katy. What, hour and a half, hour and 15-minute drive to Katy. So you're not too far from where you grew up. So you have a background in Huntsville.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think I do. I mean, the trees have gotten a little bigger in the last 20 years, but it's kind of all coming back now. I've hit the majority of the roads and know where I'm going without having to use the maps at this point. So, but no, we had some familiarity with it. My high school position coach, Kent Bruno, who I'm very close with, I could certainly he's on the Mount Rushmore of, or at least my Mount Rushmore of coaches, just for his influence that he has had on me in my life and coaching. He actually graduated. Was born and raised in Huntsville and graduated from Huntsville High School and played at Sam Houston. So, I always heard Huntsville stories as a player, and it's been great to have him come back and now be a part of our program here, in the last 4 months that I've been here. And so, it's exciting. It's a great place. The community did a tremendous job with passing a bond several years ago, being able to build, I'd say arguably some of the greatest facilities, in the area, if not in the state. And, we're just very blessed to have it. Our administration is extremely supportive, and on top of all that, I mean, we just have great kids. Our kids are absolutely amazing to work with and to be around every day.
Well, you hit something I like to talk about a lot, because a lot of coaches like to bring this up. They like to thank their administrators. How important is it to have a great admin behind you, supporting everything you want to do and supporting everything your kids need to, reach the next level? How important is that, for you to go win football games and make that, run and play in December?
I think it's pretty simply put. It's either a make or break you. I mean, it's that type of deal, public education in the hiring aspect of things is not as easy as it used to be. When you have assistants that move on or get promoted or, take jobs to promote themselves professionally at other places, it's not necessarily always going out and finding the best coach. It's now fitting the square peg in the square hole. You got to find sometimes the best coach that teaches math or teaches English. Through the transition that we had and me coming in and some coaches going different directions here from the previous staff, a credit to our administration is they allowed me to go find the best coaches, and we're able to plug them in where we needed to. And I can say in my career, that hasn't always happened. And I understand why. They've got to fill classrooms, and that's certainly important. But in the hiring process here at Huntsville, they were very open to say, Coach, go and find the guys that you need to find, and be able to bring them here. And so in that process, I've been fortunate enough to have two guys on my staff that have been former athletic directors and head football coach. Scott Stewart was the AD head football coach at Temple High School the last 11 years. Brandon Krause was at Splendora last year, has been at Groveton for many years. And so just having the experience and the energy of those guys on staff is just tremendous. And certainly our administration, made a big push this year. And, I don't know if you were aware, but, we were able to hire a strength coach for Huntsville ISD and Benny Wiley, and who I believe is the tip of the spear in strength and conditioning all across the country. He came to us from USC. He worked with Mike Leach at Texas Tech for, I think, 7 years, was at Tennessee for a year, was on staff at the University of Texas when Charlie Strong was the head coach, and then went with Coach Riley to Oklahoma when he got that job and made the transition out to USC. And so, to be able to make a presentation to our administration, knowing the commitment it was going to take to be able to get, a Benny Wiley here at Huntsville, and them to be completely supportive of it, I think just is a testament to their support of us and in the direction we're trying to go here at Huntsville.
That's great. It takes all those key pieces to make it happen and win. And, here at Lufkin, we had the pleasure of getting our director of sports performance, strength conditioning coach for the district hired this year. And it's been big. The kids seem to love it. He's working with all sports, so it goes a long way. And, when you want to build that top tier program, you have to have somebody, there to lead those things for you, because you're basically training like a college athlete now. 5A Division I football, 5A Division II, 6A Division I, Division II, all those different, levels of football. These kids, you're playing basically in the SEC, Big 12, ACC every week. And you look at your schedule, you're opening the season up with Brenham. And people might not realize this, but Brenham has a heck of a football team. They
Yes,
have
they do.
the last couple of years, and you return a lot of great guys. We'll get to talk about that down the road, but you're not going out and just playing, some little school. You're going to play some guys that are wanting to compete, wanting to beat you guys.
Yes, sir. No, it's been huge, and Coach Wiley's been with us since about the second week of June, and I mean, he's an incredible strength coach, and his knowledge of that is, like I said, I mean, I believe he's certainly the tip of the spear, and I think there's a lot of people that would agree with me at all levels. Um, but outside of that, he's just a tremendous human being. I mean, has been working with all sports here. He had was doing strength and conditioning with our cheerleaders in the weight room yesterday, and so just his influence as a person is really above and beyond the great strength coach that he is. And so, he's been able to build great relationships with our players. He's still able to relate to the high school kids. And, we had a scrimmage with our freshmen. We scrimmaged College Station last Friday, and he said that was probably the first high school football game he'd been to since like 1993 or something like that. So it's great to have him around.
So you get hired in Huntsville in March, a little later than a lot of people like to get hired. But what has been the challenges and what's been the hardest part of getting everything going? You come in March. Most schools are already wrapping up all season, get ready for spring football. And you're just not getting there. You got to meet the kids. You got to meet the town. You got to meet the teachers, administrators, and all that stuff. You got to go meet your staff. You got to hire a staff. So I know it wasn't easy.
No, it's not easy, and I think I mean, I've done it before, and even though when you've done it before, it's still not easy. I mean, and I would say the most difficult part of it is just the business side of things. I mean, each school district has their own policies and procedures and way they like to do things and how they like to operate, and so being able to learn those things and is you just got to be able to adjust. I mean, being able to build relationships with the kids, the X's and O's, that sort of thing is to me is why we do it, and certainly the fun part. Being able to come in, like I said, the last week of March was certainly late. We that was about a week before we went to run our district track meet, and then we had area track and regional track, and so we only had about 3 days that we went out and did any type of skill work before we jumped and put helmets on and went to spring ball. So again, real proud of our players and their love for football and how they study the game, and was very pleased in the 14 practices that we had in spring.
That's great. And you get there in time for spring football. And a lot of places I'm kind of shocked, people are going away for spring football. They want those 2 scrimmages. And I see the pros and I see the cons on it. What's your opinion on that?
I mean, I've always been a spring ball guy. I think a lot of coaches are looking at the time that the UIL does give you to be able to work in the summer. Again, to me, football is football. And the only way you get better at football is having 11 guys out there with shoulder pads on, playing it the right way. I am a defensive guy. I always have been. And, I think the missing piece of it all is, being able to tackle another human that's running at you full speed and being able to react to him, especially at the level that we play, is not the easiest thing to do. So, we're able to grab, a couple more live scrimmages or live practices of being able to go full speed and tackle to the ground when we have spring ball, rather than taking that week, when you get back in August. And I always like to go into spring ball because, we utilize the spring to reevaluate our personnel. We go into the spring with a lot of questions. Hopefully we answer some of those questions through spring ball, and then we have the summertime to be able to come up with new questions and reevaluate again. So again, I'm certainly a pro spring ball guy.
How important is it, for this, getting this scrimmage the week before you kick off against Brenham to get to get all the looks you want to get, to see what key guys are going to be, your contributors and everything, who can line up, who knows the playbook, all those things. How important is it for this scrimmage, to happen?
I mean, it's really important. I mean, first off, from being, new, we did some 7-on-7 stuff this summer. And for me, it's more so being able to get on another field so that I can see kind of the true competitive temperaments of our players. I mean, certainly, like I said, we had scrimmages, throughout the spring. I mean, we scrimmaged live on Saturday, and but again, that's the guy that they go to school with and they sit down in the cafeteria with and everything else. Things change competitively when it's somebody that's a different color on the other side, and how do we handle success, and how do we handle when maybe the momentum is not necessarily on our side. So, I know this. I mean, let's see this. We're probably only 20 practices into a new schemes on both sides of the football, and certainly Lufkin's going to be able to challenge us in every way possible. But I want to see our kids and how they compete. We're going to continue to work, and we're going to continue to get better at what we do schematically. If we were perfect in practice 20, then I'm not sure how much fun it's going to be. I mean, I know we're going to get better. I know we're going to progress. Friday is not going to be our defining moment as a football team, but it's certainly going to show where we are playing a very, very, great opponent in Lufkin.
How important is it when you're putting your schedule together? I know you didn't get to put this schedule together. You got in, you take what you get. But how important is it for you to prepare your kids for this? Playing after Thanksgiving, playing in December. Week 1, week 2, week 3.
I mean, it is important. I mean, again, this is a realignment year. February, it's either all going to stay the same or it's going to change. So you have to be able to schedule a very talented, non-district schedule to get yourself ready for the district schedule. And sometimes you never know how that's going to go. And I mean, you may be in there's some districts around the state, and I certainly believe ours is one that's a juggernaut that's got, I mean, any team you flip a coin and they got a chance to be able to win, on Friday night. And so it's just you got to prepare hard, you got to prepare tough. I mean, football's hard, and you got to play tough people to be able to get ready for those Thanksgiving and December games.
And you look at y'all's schedule. You open the season up with Brenham, then you get Cedar Park. You got to play PNG. If I'm correct, correct me if I'm wrong. You guys, I mean not you guys. PNG and Nederland played last year, obviously in their same district, but Nederland beat PNG last year. PNG plays in the playoffs. They make a run in the playoffs. So you never know what can happen any moment in that district that you guys are in.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think we have a very tough competitive district. From what I understand, Huntsville had a chance to be able to tie with PNG at the end, and ended up having a field goal go off the upright. Nederland ends up beating PNG. I believe maybe Montgomery ended up beating Nederland, and so it's a very, very competitive district. And hopefully you go through it and you stay as healthy as you can, and get some momentum late in the season to try to make a good run to the playoffs.
Getting here in March, and everything going so fast, and now football season's here. What's something that stood out that you like the most about the team you're getting back this year?
I mean, I personally, I think it's just, it's just the kids and who they are. My first day here that I got a chance to get in front of them, I knew it was late, and certainly wanted them to acknowledge the true time that it was. And I just said, look, guys, I'm just going to ask you to trust me right off the bat. I said, I'm going to do everything I can to earn your trust, but I'd like for you to give me the benefit of the doubt, because come Christmas time, when the 2025 season is over and we reflect back on it, there's not going to be any excuses that everybody else, all the other staffs and programs, their staffs had been established and been together for years, and we are not going to say, well, we had a new head coach and that was our reason why we weren't successful. Like, I don't operate that way. So just give me the benefit of the doubt. I'll earn your trust, and really from that moment on, they've kind of accepted, the transition with open arms. And I think that process has kind of allowed us to be where we are right now. in practice 20, and it's exciting to continue to strengthen those relationships and make them better as we move on throughout the season.
Well, we know one thing you're not going to be missing is a backfield. You return Trayshawn Brown, 5'9", 190, quarterback, running back, quarterback Zarian Adolph, 6', 190. He also ran for 832 yards, 828 yards, and 12 touchdowns last year, with Brown running for 1340 and 14 touchdowns. So we know one thing you're going to be able to do, and something you do enjoy, you said, is run the ball.
Yes or no, we're excited about having those guys in the backfield. Another returning letterman, Jacavian Burks, is going to be a junior, is also going to be in the backfield too. We feel very strongly about those guys. Zay Adolph is our quarterback, and he's going to be a sophomore this year. And through injuries, he actually started, I believe, maybe the last 4 games as a freshman. And he is a sophomore, and he doesn't look like it because he's relying on the experience that he had in playing some very tough competition, in the season last year. So, just really excited about those guys in the backfield, and feel like our guys up front, our offensive line have really improved through spring ball to where we are right now. And, really excited about them.
And, if I remember correctly, also going back to last season of the playoffs, Huntsville plays a great South Oak Cliff team, and that would have got you a rematch if you win that game at PNG.
I guess so. I'm not sure. I just know this is, obviously we've got a big district ball game against PNG, and if you want to play late in December, then you're going to have to go through PNG twice, or certainly South Oak Cliff to be able to do it. And so, we just got to be able to take it one game at a time and one day at a time, and continue to get better.
That's great. I'm sure the kids that came in and bought into what you've instilled in them and told them and everything, and they're looking forward to kicking off the season.
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, somebody asked me, what's your pregame speech going to be at Brenham, and I don't think I'll be any different than any other head coach at that point in time. You really got to just try to calm them down. You got to remind them that it's not all about the run through the tunnel, and it's not all about the first kickoff. Like, we got 48 minutes of really hard fought football ahead of us, and just got to be able to take it one play at a time and do our job and execute the best that we can.
And that's all you can ask for right there.
Yes, sir. So it's exciting, and we're looking forward to it. And, like I said, really, really proud of our staff and our kids, and, our administration right now is some good times in Huntsville, Texas, and we're looking forward to the season.
Well, that's great. You walk into some new facilities, beautiful football field. I was headed to College Station for the 7-on-7 state tournament, when you got to drive right by and you can't miss it.
Yes or no, it is absolutely beautiful, and was very fortunate to be able to inherit a place like this. So we're doing the best we can to be able to take care of it, and just try to pack the stands as much as we can whenever we're playing at Huntsville on Friday nights.
Well, Coach Moebes, I appreciate your time for coming on live from the Pines tonight. Look forward to getting to meet you Friday here in Lufkin. We wish you guys the best. Hope we have a safe scrimmage on both sides, and we wish the Hornets a successful season. We won't be seeing you guys again, so we wish y'all the best of luck this year.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Look forward to shaking your hand, and let's do this again if you'd have me.
All righty, sir. We'll look forward to it, and hopefully get you back on come December.
Yes, sir. Sounds great.
All right. Have a great night, Coach.
Appreciate you.